So which one have I got?
This is mine.
That's yours.
My name is Priscilla.
Christine.
Yes.
Okay, Christine.
Brian, could you just look up briefly?
Shall I sit down?
Yeah.
That would be better, wouldn't it?
Okay, and smile. That's good, thank you.
We're the Milton Keynes Sadlers. Very proud of Dad for his great work with the book, and looking forward to reading it in full. Well done, Brian Sadler, I think. Yeah, well done, Grandad. You can speak now, girls.
So well done, Grandad.
Good work, Grandad. Love you lots.
Good luck with your book, Brian. I hope it all goes well. I know you've got it in you to make it up there with the big boys. So just do what you got to do, and I'm sure it'll all work out.
Yes, and I hope your book comes a big success. Thank you.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Because he had his experience, all his jokes when we were
Like a brother is good.
And if he wasn't my neighbour, I'd still be here because he's such a nice chap. But I did expect him to shave his hair tonight and wear a blanket, you know, because he is. When you've read the book, you'll think of Buddhas and people like that, you know, and very spiritual people. And obviously Brian is, and obviously when you've read the book also, you'll see what how Brian's had such a great life, you know. And I say, what is the purpose of life? And it depends where you are in your life and what you are doing. And at the moment, you know, my purpose in life is doing chores and jobs for my two sons, I think, and looking after their granddaughter and getting asked, Dad, can you come and do this? Can you come and do that? And other times in your life, you've got other things to do. You've got things where you're doing such a lot with your wife, or whether you're doing some things with your own children or with your grandchildren, or whether you know, when you get to retirement ages, you might just start to enjoy your life and think about all the things that you wanted to do in your life and never had time to do them. But to say, Brian had spent, I should think, 40 years writing this book.
No.
Go on.
40 years of experience.
No, but it's sort of writing it, and I suppose the longer you write it, the more you tweak it, and you keep on thinking. And even recently, obviously, things that's happened to him over the past few years still can affect the way that he finished the book. So finishing the book probably took longer than it did to write it, you know, and finishing it off. And I say it is an interesting read, and I believe everything that Brian believes in it, and I believe that Brian has truthfully put down what he feels and what he says and what he sees. So in that way, I took a lot out of it. I think there's lots of interesting parts in it. It isn't all for me, but you've got to come at it with an open mind. It's not all my book, but I think it's something that Brian desperately believes in, and I give him great credit for doing it. So, you know, everybody enjoy the book. I'm sure you will. Right. So good luck to Brian and his book.
Well, I won't. Good heavens! I'm gobsmacked. Another one of my sons and daughter-in-law. They kept it secret from me tonight. Two of them turned up. Kevin and Claire come all the way from Soham near Cambridge. Many of you have become good friends over the years, but those who I have met for the first time tonight, it's an honour and a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for coming on a very cold night, dry though it is, because I don't know who's interested in the subject matter of this book, because it's classified as metaphysics or mind, body and spirit, and it covers the philosophy of life and death, really. Why are we here? Who are we? What happens after death? Is it oblivion? Where do our loved ones go when they die? Has religion got the answers, or has it lost the plot? Why is there so much evil on the planet? You know, where does good fit in? Is there a God? When 35,000 children die every day on this planet through poverty, neglect and disease, Why are there so many wars? All these sort of questions that people ask, you know. If there is a life after death, has it been scientifically proven? Do we have more than one life? In other words, do we come back again and again? And if we do, why? What is the reason for our life here on this earth? If there is a God of love, is it possible to communicate with that God, whatever we conceive it to be? These are the questions today that people are asking at deeper levels, more so than ever because of the state of the world. And it is pretty horrendous if you read the media and look at the media. There's hardly a country in the world that's not affected either financially or violence or something, you know, drugs and mindless thugs on the streets. It causes people to ask questions, and particularly when they lose a loved one through the process we call death. So what is death, and why are people frightened of death? That's what I've covered in the book. Everything that one could ask about the suffering of life. Why do we have to suffer? Why isn't life hunky-dory all the time? Why do children have to die? Why do some people born in riches and others in poverty? And those are the sort of questions that we ask, or people with open minds ask. If you have comfort zones, you don't ask these sort of questions. And I like to talk to people with open minds. It's a great pleasure to talk to open minds and people without comfort zones, because they're continually asking questions, and I learn from them as well. I never stop learning. Whoever stands before you is your teacher. That's my philosophy. You can learn something from everybody. And we've all had experiences of life. I've been on this planet, this is my 74th year of being on this planet. So I've seen a little bit of life, but it's a pleasure to talk to young people who seem to be old souls in young bodies. And you think, well, where did they get that knowledge from? Mark over there is mentioned in the book, who had a cosmic consciousness experience. 24 years of age when I met him, and he'd got the mind of a Greek philosopher. Amazing, his thinking was so deep about life. And Richard, another one, I've known him over 20 years. His mind, the thinking levels of minds like that is an absolute pleasure to converse with. And Jack, who did the website for me, only 23, met him, a few months ago. Deep thinker, unbelievable. I never thought to the depths that Jack did at 23 years of age. Wasn't until I was 35 when I floated out of my body and wanted to know why. In a meditation session. And I looked at myself 10, 12 feet away, and I thought, what am I doing standing here? I've got a body, it's solid, and yet I can see all my colleagues sitting there meditating. And then I realised I was looking at the back of my own head. And I thought, good grief, that's me. What am I doing here? And the moment I thought that, I was yanked back into my body and woke up in the chair with my heart pounding. And when I said to the meditation teacher, afterwards, what had happened, he said, oh, congratulations, you've just had an astral projection. So I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, your astral body projected out of your physical, and you've just proved that consciousness exists outside of the physical body, and that the mind and the brain are two separate entities. So I said, oh, thank you very much. So I got every book I could. I went to the libraries, I went to bookshops, I went to second hand, and got every book I could find about the astral body. And there's more out there than you think. So that started me thinking, and one thing led to another. And then I started to see clairvoyantly during meditation lessons. I could see faces and people, and I wanted to know why. I was seeing clear faces and and they used to put voices into my head. And when I mentioned it afterwards to the teacher, somebody in the group said, good heavens, that was my mother, or that was my father, or my young son that who died 5 years ago when he was 10 years of age. And I thought, why am I seeing these things? And the teacher said to me, well, Raja Yoga meditation brings out the psychic faculties in people. He said, but unless you want to be a clairvoyant medium, he said, I would ignore it. He said, it's quite common, and it's written in Indian yogic literature and all esoteric teachings. So I said, well, I'm fascinated. And being a design engineer, most of my working life, I wanted to know why, from an engineering point of view, I was seeing these faces. So I started to do research, and I found out that our astral body, when we die, leaves the physical and goes into another dimension. So then that led me to another piece of the jigsaw of life. And that is the nature of the book. I've put together all these pieces of the jigsaw. Reincarnation, is there a God of love? And that's when I had my cosmic consciousness experience and became at one with the universe, an inpouring of love, and knew what God was, why God was, the meaning and purpose to life, hence the title of the book. And I've seen so many entities that have stood at the side of me, giving off unbelievable love and strength. Native American Indians, Chinamen, Arabs, you name it, they've been round, and other people have seen them at the same time. Another piece of the jigsaw. Multi-dimensional universe, that's worlds within worlds on different frequencies, with people living in them. Spoke to a scientist, 6 months ago at the Akash restaurant. I was sitting next to him, and we got talking about the universe and I said, are you into all this? He said, yes, big time. And he said to me, do you understand all this? I said, yes, I've made a study of it. For nearly 40 years I've been researching all this and had multiple experiences. And he said, well, how many dimensions do you think we found? I said, I don't know, talk of 10 or 11. He said, yeah, and more. And I said, and people living in them on different frequencies? He said, yes, full of life. He said, the whole of space, the whole of the universe is life on different dimensions, different frequencies, just like television channels, and people living in them. And when they come back to our frequency, we see them, and people call them ghosts and spirits and freak out, but to anybody who's sensitive or psychic and see them, it's no big deal. And indigenous tribes have been seeing these people for centuries, and it's not new to them. But it's that sort of thing, the jigsaw puzzle of life. If you put it all together and it forms a comprehensive picture of what life is all about, why we are here, what death is, why death is, the nature of the universe, the big cosmic plan. And then we can form a picture, and once we understand what death is and why we are here, what we are here to learn, and it's all based on love. Unconditional love is the theme running through the universe, and it's the theme running through every chapter of the book. Because everything you look at in life is based on love. And as you know, love heals, unites, whereas hatred, bitterness, anger destroys. And the law of life is unconditional love. 40 years of research have not changed that opinion. And I've had so much love given to me, not just from friends, wonderful friends like yourselves. You give me hope for the human race when I see people like yourselves here. But what I have experienced from those from the other side of life that people call guides, teachers, enlightened beings, doesn't matter what you call them, spiritual social workers I call them, they come back with such love and give you such comfort and upliftment and words of wisdom that defy belief. And that my philosophy is, and I've put it through several chapters, is that criticism without investigation is the highest form of ignorance. So if you want to know these things, you investigate, and if you don't, then you don't find. Seek and you will find is the answer. If you don't seek, you don't find. If you want to know the meaning and purpose of life, then you search for it and you find it, and life gives you the experiences. So bless you and thank you for coming. And that's a brief outline of how I came to write the book.